I am begging people who make movies to learn how to take off necklaces. This never happens in real life. Somebody has a very important pendant that they wear around their neck that is important to the plot, and then they realize it would be better for the plot if they gave it to somebody else, so they take it off forwards. Don't do that! Like, most necklaces are manufactured with a very clever system in the back that allows you to open them without breaking them. I know, technology is amazing. Why would you ruin the necklace? Why do you want a single-use necklace? Why do you want to take it off to give it to somebody in such a way that means they can't put it on? And worse, what if it doesn't break right away? You're in a crucial emotional moment and you decide to hand down the pendant that's kept you safe all these years, and you yank it and it just hurts really bad? All of this to save a half a second? Like, you don't need to do it. There's a reason why your characters don't take off their shirts Hulk style every time. They don't exit buildings like the Kool-Aid Man. Like, use the thing the way it works. Otherwise, that's not how that works at all. I just want writers who have met human beings. Otherwise, it's time for you to turn in your pen. And be safe when you're doing it. You can take out the hole in your pocket. You don't have to pull it through the fabric. In movies, criminals are always giving each other illegal stuff in fancy briefcases and then not bothering to get the bag back. But does that actually happen in real life? Find out on the first episode of my new series, Holy Crap, Sometimes They Actually Do That! This started last week when we found out that a member of the Trump administration was caught on tape taking bribes in exchange for government contracts. But this was an FBI sting, so it makes sense that the Bureau cheaped out and didn't want to spend $500 extra on a briefcase when they knew this guy would just take money that smelled like falafel. So I assumed this is what usually happens. It's actually just cheap paper bags. But then I was reading the story of the Louisiana representative who was charged with corruption in 2007. The famous part of the story was that he kept his money in a freezer, but how did he get that money? That's right, he got $100,000 in cash in a briefcase. It really happens. Then there's the famous ab scam case from the 1970s, which is what the movie American Hustle is based on, and that was where 7 members of Congress were convicted of bribery, including, that's right, accepting briefcases full of cash. And in 2017, a bunch of Brazilian politicians accepted so much money in illegal bribes that it wouldn't fit in suitcases, they had to use full-on checked bag-sized luggage. And sometimes real criminals do other things for movies, like hiding their secret cash in hollow books. Like in 2024, this Mississippi City Councilor was found with $20,000 in bribes in a fake copy of the U.S. Constitution. And that's funny for 2 reasons. Obviously, there's the crime inside a legal document, but also the Constitution isn't that big. Like, that's a dead giveaway that you, just like the ab scam people and like Trump's border czar, have never read the Constitution. People in movies and TV love to hand a letter to a bird who then delivers it to the address on the letter, but is that how birds work? Find out on another episode of my hit series, That's Not How That Works at All, where I use silly movie tropes to learn about the real world. Jude suggested this one and I love it, because in Game of Thrones they use ravens for castle-to-castle communications, and in Harry Potter they use owls. Both of those make a ton of sense. Ravens are very smart, and all owls went to college. I know those are both magical worlds, but it's worth talking about because people believe this in real life, like this local news report about a company that said they would deliver jazz cigarettes via tiny backpacks on pigeons, and they won't because they can't, and I feel like the news should know that. Homing pigeons are amazing. They can find their way back from over 1,000 miles away, and scientists still aren't sure exactly how they do it. But what we do know is that they go home. That's why they're called homing pigeons and not random address pigeons. The way real people used real pigeons to deliver messages is that they took a pigeon away from its home and then attached a letter to that leg, and it flew home with the message. You can't tell it to go to the Weasleys or go to the Lannisters or go to some random stoner's house. They don't know how to do that. For this delivery system to work, the drugstore would need a separate pigeon for every single delivery address, and then they would have to give that exact pigeon the delivery, and then afterwards the person would have to bring the pigeon back, which defeats the whole purpose. Birds make terrible mules. Pigeons are legit heroes, but whether it's for pot or the plot, that's not how they work at all. Everybody knows that coffee cups in movies are always empty and then no one says goodbye when they hang up, and sometimes babies are just dolls, and looking for those things will ruin the story of the movie for you. But if you want to ruin stuff for yourself, there's so much more stuff you can think about. Like if somebody is riding a bike, frequently they will put the bike and the rider on a trailer and pull them around. So anytime somebody in a movie is on a bike, instead of thinking about the plot and characters and emotions of that scene, you could look at the parked cars behind them and think that they seem a little low and then be like, haha, that bike's on a trailer. Again, I'm not saying you should do this, but anytime somebody's eating, there's probably a spit bucket right next to the table that they are spitting the food into in between takes, and it probably is real gross. Anytime there are automatic doors, they're probably not. There's probably just someone who has to pull a rope to open the doors. It's things like Star Trek or Shark Tank or other shows that don't have the initials ST. There's almost always somebody pulling the automatic door. If you see a helicopter, it's probably being filmed from another helicopter. So there are secretly 2 helicopters. And if you see 2 helicopters, there are secretly 3 helicopters. So what you could do is anytime you see a number of helicopters in a movie, you could lean over to a person, like say hypothetically your wife, and whisper the actual number of helicopters that are being used in that scene. And she won't know how to tell you, but she'll like it. A great way to take yourself out of scenes is anytime there's a CG character, you can picture the actual actor wearing green spandex and a bunch of ping pong balls. And if there's a kid in a movie, you can think about how few child actors turn out okay. And then you'll realize that you enjoy ruining movies for yourself and for other people, so you didn't turn out okay either. And then you have a lot to bond with this child actor over. Maybe sometime you could hang out together and get some coffee. It's spooky season, which means it's time once again for me to complain about Halloween costumes in movies and TV. I love costume designers, but one of their weak spots is that they're not good at making people look as bad as we do in real life. The worst dressed person on screen is dressed better than the average person in real life. And it's especially noticeable at Halloween because when a bunch of characters put on Halloween costumes, they all try. And I've never been around a group of people who all try. Every costume party I've ever been to had at least one person who threw something together on the way there. Somebody's always in their regular clothes plus cat ears. Somebody has the same witch's hat they've been wearing for 15 years and they just put it on over regular clothes. Somebody has a costume that doesn't fit but they keep wearing it anyway. And even when people do costumes, they're not as clear as on TV. There's always somebody dressed as a pop culture moment and they are super disappointed when you don't recognize it. They're like, what do you mean you don't remember that time Meryl Streep ate a piece of cake? And at least in my friend group, one person always has some sort of silly pun idea that they have to explain. Like there's a bunch of cereal boxes glued to their shirts with red paint on them and they're like, I'm a serial killer, get it? Real life is janky. If you're making a show, show me some jank. This is a random photo of an office Halloween party I found, and this is believable because you can tell that at least a few of these people did not want to put on costumes. I know movies aren't real life, but I just think representation matters, and a lot of people are lazy and don't see themselves represented on the big screen. Like, we're here, we're everywhere, and we're not making much of an impression on people.